Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today. Welcome to Green Threads 23. Today, we have gathered some of the most innovative organizations in the industry. And our goal today is to share knowledge, to inform, and to inspire. We do that with the 4 organizations as we believe together we have the power to drive this transition. A quick update on the agenda. We'll start with tex.tracer about traceability and data reliability. Afterwards, we'll go to bAwear score for automated impact calculations. Thirdly, we'll see GS1, the founding father of barcodes, on the transition towards QR codes. And lastly, yours truly, I will present on digital product passports in behalf of Tappr. If you have any questions during the presentations, feel free to ask them in the Q&A section or in the chat. We have people monitoring these sections. So yeah, feel free to ask your questions there. They'll be answered at the far end of the presentation. So after all the 4 presentations have been presented, that's when we will do the Q&A. But yeah, make sure during the presentations you ask your questions because the presenters will be happy to answer them at the end of the presentation. Now, without further ado, I would like to kick off the first presentation. We start with tex.tracer. Traceability is paramount, and with Yolanda, we're in the right hands. So here is Yolanda Kooi from tex.tracer. Thank you so much.
A very good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to be able to share our story here with you today. Enabling change with verified transparency, that's the motto of tex.tracer. As in, our industry, the apparel and footwear industry, is a big industry, and at the same time, it's super opaque, with on average 150 hands that work on the production and retailing of garments. That's why we know we need change. Luckily, governments are helping consumers to make educated decisions by adding regulations and directives all over the world. And if we zoom into Europe, there are binding and voluntary initiatives across this continent, and they will become coming into force in the next few years. Now, without diving into that at the moment all too much in detail, please let me tell you, if you're interested, we did create a full update on all the regulations that are coming into force, and we'd love to send those details to you. So get in touch if you want to get that information. At the same time, today, from my side, I'd like to dive into the ESPR and particularly the CSRD, because if we look at complying with the CSRD, the Corporate Social Responsibility Directive, you need supply chain data. And that's where the process of tex.tracer starts, because we believe as textile experts that true change in our industry can only happen if we create verified transparency. And that's why we help companies, big and small, to create that verified transparency. We do this by collecting supply chain insights from primary source to allow you to get insight into the supply chain, create product footprint data, and in the end, digital product passport. We help you to comply with rules and legislation which are coming into force, to reduce workload at the same time, because that is increasing, and at the same time create brand value. Now, as we collect data, we like to collect verified data because we want you to be able to act based on the truth. And to allow you to do so, we work on 3 important pillars. It's basically adding time and geolocation stamps to each and every uploaded document in our platform, uploaded by the primary source, your suppliers, and their suppliers, all the way back to tier 4. At the same time, we ask them to upload those documentation to prove that they are part of the chain, and we send that information through to the next partner in line. So for instance, a knitting mill uploading the data of their knitted fabrics and confirming that they have sent this to the next partner in line for confectioning. The confectioning partner will then receive those fabrics in real life, and in our platform they will receive the packing list, which was updated by the previous part, asking and our platform is then asking that supplier to confirm that they are indeed partner in this supply chain, thereby creating a digital handshake so that we know that these partners are connected. All this data is then gathered in the blockchain so that the data is immutable. Now, there's a lot more about that blockchain part for anyone who wants to know. I'd love to have a chat with you. At the same time, for us, at this point, the most important part is that we just make sure that your data is immutable. That immutable data, which is as reliable as possible, and I'm saying as reliable as possible because we know that in our industry it will be hard, or in any industry it will be hard to really collect 100% reliability. At the same time, by using the 3 pillars that I've just mentioned, you can rest assured that the data is as reliable as possible, and that allows you to work with suppliers, creating a dialogue and making sure that you can take actual improvements. Now, in that actual improvement part, basically we say we start with collecting supply chain insights on supplier level as well as product level. And once you've done that, you can also collect environmental and social data on product and facility level. And as an example, a lot of your suppliers may be asked to, or if you are a supplier, you may be asked to actually complete a BSCI for a BSCI social audit. Yes, if you're a tier 1 supplier, but probably if you're a tier 2, 3 or 4 supplier, that question is not asked to you. We think it's important that also there we improve the social standards of workers and thereby start with a self-assessment by a supplier, providing the client with data, not just to be a paper tiger pushing data, but also to allow you to get to the next level and have a meaningful conversation with your client. And if you're a client, a brand or retailer, allow you to have a meaningful conversation with your supply chain partner. And then instead of actually pushing them for data, because you were probably sending emails with Excel sheets to fill out the supply chain details, or with PDFs to confirm your code of conduct or restricted substances list, now you can just ask the platform to do all that, I would say, boring work, so that the platform does that for you. So that is reduced workload for the client and also reduced workload for the supplier, because we create a simplistic platform that allows the supplier to easily upload and confirm data so that they're done in a split second, so to say. And once we have collected all that data, it is possible for the supplier as well as the client to create a risk assessment. In a demo, we'd love to show you more about that, as in we make sure that we have country risk information and combine that with the actual data of your supply chain so that you can take action and create improvements. And thereby, instead of having to look at 100% of your supply chain and improving everywhere, you can say, let's focus and narrow down on a certain point, and whether that is living wage in India, or whether that is making sure that you don't obtain cotton from Xinjiang, if that is what you want, focus on that. And you can only do that by really making sure that you know which supplier is involved in your supply chain. Having said that, once we create all that, or once we have collected all that data, you have been able to work on your supply chain and improving it, you can share this data. And that data is shared in the digital product passport. This digital product passport, in our case, is basically the product footprint information and product journey information. And I can't show you the video here right now, but if you scan the QR code, please have a look at how Mudjeans, our client, is doing this. it's important to share here as well that for us, it's important to work together with partners. And that's why we're here today, because, of course, this information we cannot share without our partners, as in the product footprint data that we gather and collect from our suppliers is sent to bAwear, the next speaker, Anton, for them to create a life cycle assessment, and the results flow back to us so that we can share the data. At the same time, we only collect product footprint and journey information basically on the production of a garment. Once you get into the stage of communicating with your consumer in the user phase and trying to extend the product lifetime, that's where Tappr comes in, and that's why we love to share that with you later on, and Bas will be telling you more. And for sure, at this point, we share a QR code generated through our platform, but we're super excited that GS1 is working on the digital link, which will create a QR code as a replacement of the current barcode in the foreseeable future. And so for sure, we will also be using the digital link of GS1 so that all data can be shared, but also more about that when the next speakers tell you more. Now, tex.tracer has a global network and we're expanding rapidly. We're very excited about that. And with everything that we do, we try to take into account that you can meet the upcoming rules and regulations and the steps that are to be taken in the CSRD. And you see the 6 steps here, or 7 steps, sorry, which should be covered. And later on, we'll get you some more information also on the steps that are to be taken. Now, all in all, as a summary, for us, it's important that you really try to use your buying power as a force for good. And we think you can only do that if you can act based on facts. Facts that we will collect for you so that you will have less workload and can have that meaningful conversation with your supplier. And at the same time, a marketing team can build trust by connecting with the consumer and discussing or sharing factual data instead of indicative information. With this, you can avoid greenwashing, reduce the risk of your company, and really be ready for the future. To do that, as I mentioned before, we love to work together with our partners who are also here today. And with that, I thank you for your time and look forward to introducing Anton Luiken from bAwear. Over to you, Anton.
Yolanda, thank you for the nice introduction and your talk. I'd like to speak about the opportunities to calculate the textile impact. And if you have transparency, you know where your products come from, and you want to improve, then you need to have information on products or you. And so you want to measure what you and the impact of your products. You want to comply and reduce the risk, and you want to communicate to your clients with credibility. If you want to have calculations on textiles and clothing, you can go through a life cycle assessment, which is to quantify the impact of the materials, the processes, and the products you use, and you can report it in different quantities per kilogram, per square meter, per product, and the use of a product for 1 year. And what we do report is the impact categories on greenhouse warming, on water use, on fossil energy, and land use. When you go for a classic LCA, then it is enormous expensive. It costs you thousands of euros for one product. It costs you lots of time, and it's not scalable. And when you have 5,000 products, it's impossible to do this through this classic LCAs, and then you have to find new solutions. One of these solutions is the bAwear impact calculations. And we have developed a very nice and fast system which is scalable. which is cost efficient, which is reliable, and which is fast in calculating the impact per product, per textile product. What we do is we offer this service as information as a service. We are based, our model is based on CimaPro, which is the most used LCA software in the world. We are using the recipe 2016 midpoint calculation method. It's important to mention this because there are many different calculation methods, all different and also giving different results. We use our dedicated textile simulation model. I think we are one of the few people in the world who can do so. And we are supported by industry federations like Crea Moda and Modent in Belgium and the Netherlands. And of course, as we are doing today, we like to work together with partners in traceability, in communications, and that's why we are here, part of this ecosystem. When you want to go into textiles, you see then you have to give information on every aspect of the supply chain, and the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, whatever. Information on every step is needed. tex.tracer is one of the partners who can help you to get the detailed information, the primary data on every aspect of a textile product. We have 3 different products. You might say it's a basic, which is a very easy to use, but not, but we are using therefore lots of secondary data. We have an expert, which is quite an LCA-like product, but I'd like to introduce today this bAwear Advanced, in which we are using predefined product scenarios and using secondary data. In our portal or through APIs, you can change the secondary data by your primary data, and then you can get an impact calculation in minutes instead of in months. And I think that's really a breakthrough. What are we asking? A product category and product type for selection of the standard scenario, because that's important. And we're using these standard scenarios because then we are sure that you do not forget any step in the supply chain, and that we are calculating all the impacts are there and not forgetting 3 or 4 steps and making a nice LCA or a nice impact calculation, but with no meaning at all because it's not complete. We need some general information for reporting purposes. Fiber composition as is on the composition label, yarn numbers, spinning method if you know, fabric construction, and finishing methods, color depth, dyeing or printing method, the destination of the cutting waste, potential after treatments, and important also the countries of production and final destination, and the use of renewable energy. And we can also have the impact of the use phase and the end of life phase monitored in this system. How does it look like? We have 3 different options to enter the systems. It can be through the bAwear portal, and you see one aspect of this one. Here you see all the product categories, or the categories of products, composition, and so on. And then via quite easy to use pop-up systems, you can enter your information what is needed. If you have a lot of products, you can go for an Excel upload or via the API via partners like tex.tracer. We have a standard report. When you are going through our portal calculating one product, you will get a report which will look like this one. It's always time-stamped. You see the information on the product itself. You see the information, how it is scoring against, let's say, the benchmark, which is the worst case scenario. And because that's where our secondary data is calculated and based on. And then you see per step in the production, you can see also the impact of the fiber materials, of the yarn, of the fabric, and so on and so on. When you have an import through Excel. You get the data back into an Excel. Most of it will be the same data for sure. And you get the totals per kilogram of product, or if you like, you get the totals per unit, per piece of garment. And of course, also in this system, you will get the details per production step, and like fibers, yarn production, fabric production, finishing, manufacturing, and so on. What we are doing, of course, and here we have the three different products, and the bAwear Basic, the bAwear Advanced, the bAwear Expert, and bAwear Circular, which is a little bit typical of as a combination of two calculations in order to show you the impact of the use of recycled content. And we can enter in through the API partners like tex.tracer and Tappr and go through the whole system, and you get your data back through this, or you go through our bAwear portal or through the input file. If you like more information or like to have a trial, you can go to this email address of my colleague Jesse. He will be available. You will get a free trial and credits to perform this, and so you can experience this by yourselves. This was my last slide, and I'd like to introduce Jan Merks of GS1. He's long in this business of translating, let's say, data into information which can be used and which can be which you can view in many ways, like the barcode or the QR code. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Anton. Anton was talking about the carbon footprint, which is very important, quite important for the CSRD for your company. So it relates to the CSRD, but also important for your products, which relates to the ESPR, and which will be my story. I'm Jan Merks. I'm working for GS1 Netherlands. And GS1 is not known by everyone, although used by everyone. Like Bas was saying, the godfather of the barcode. It's a nice introduction. But yes, 50 years ago, there was a requirement from industry to standardize the way we identify products and to automate the way we capture this information when you go to a shop. And that's when the EAN, now called the GTIN, was born. It's 15 years ago. 15 years ago. In the meantime, it's developed to a full architecture on data exchange. But quite important is that we are not for profit organization and driven by industry. If industry requires new standards on how to exchange data related to products or a little bit extended, they can go to GS1, and these standards will be developed in collaboration with. As I said, focus on the point of sales, the retail shop at the time, but we are moving now to a different world, a circular world. And one of the core elements is to have sustainable products on the market. And this is what Europe really wants, sustainable products. That's why they are working now on the eco design for sustainable products regulations, briefly the ESPR, which includes the digital product passport we are talking about all the time at this moment. But it's good. It's very good to put it in the timeline what's going to happen. This makes it more clear. First of all, everybody needs to understand that the ESPR is still in draft. In the latest stage of the draft, and expected to be approved before March 24, which is very important because 24 there will be elections, and if it's not approved before the elections, the European Commission will go in recess, and it might be postponed with at least a year, which is very important on the timeline. Now, if approved before March 24, the ESPR will be the basis for start working on the delegated act. The ESPR covers all sectors, and then you have to go product line by product line to have specific delegated acts, which will specify what needs to be done on for a DPP, for example. The delegated act for textiles is the first one to be developed. So once they can start the work early 24, it's expected to have a first delegated act, and this will be the textile delegated act early 26. When it's been done, the delegated act, probably there will be 1 or 2 years grace period before you are required all to have a textile digital product passport for your products. See, there's a little bit of timeline you have to take into account. We will go more in detail over the next slides. Very important on the ESPR is that it covers, in relation to the DPP, the element of the content of the DPP, but also the data system which needs to be used, the way you need to exchange these data. And these are two totally different elements. On the content itself, there has been a study by the European Study Bureau, which has looked at the long list of eco-design requirements for products, which is the Annex 1 of the ESPR. There you can read it. And they're studying it, and they are looking at which ones are critical for this kind of product groups. And that's the famous GRC report, which really specifies for textiles, for detergents, for toys, which are the critical eco-design requirements which have the biggest impact on our climate change. So this is one thing. The data by itself, come back immediately on this. The next one is even more ambitious, a little bit less important, of course, because it's about solutions, but very ambitious from the European Commission. And it talks about the data system. And there, the approach is that they are now into an investigation phase on how can we have interoperable systems in the future. And one of those critical projects there is the Surplus projects, which I'm part of. I'm leading on the textile, co-leading, I have to say, the textile product passport there. And this will be used as an inspiration for the European Commission to develop standards, technical standards, which will be used again by solution providers to build their solutions on. So this is about the data system, what the approach is. And they're expecting this 26 to be ready, these harmonized standards. So let's go a little bit more into detail. We are talking about the digital product passport, but at a higher level, which is even more important in the ESPR, are the general eco-design requirements. And you have to be very aware of this, that the eco-design requirements are more critical than the digital product passport, because only a limited part of the eco-design requirements will need to be translated into the digital product passports. So first of all, you have the performance requirements, which not all of them you need to translate. And there is a good reason, because the DPP, the objective of the digital product passport, is to provide to the value chain, to the people who need to treat the products, with the right and the appropriate information on how to treat the product, so you can make the life longer, or you can recycle the product in the appropriate way. Some elements are not really quite important for your value chain, like the water consumption during production or the energy consumption during production. It's less important to know, but these are quite important for other reasons. So, and these are the type of performance requirements you need to come up at the end. I gave here the full list on a holistic level. So product durability, reusability, upgradability, presence of substances of concern, energy use, I already explained recycled content. These are really the type of performance requirements you need to come up for each and every product for a certain type of product category. Now I'm going to go even a little bit more into detail to give you at least a view on what product reusability means or what product durability means for the European Commission. And they have specific set of parameters there we can choose from to define the eco-design, the sustainability of a product. Now, and this is exactly what GRC is doing. They are looking at these parameters and they are looking at which one apply the most to a certain product category. Like for example, spare parts. Do you need modular spare parts in your business? Do they need compatibility with other spare parts, or do you need a specific delivery time for these spare parts, or a numbering system for it? And so only on spare parts they have a number of ways which parameters you can define finally into your DPP. Now, this list is already known. The GRC did a study and available in the GRC report. So this is, I'm going to stop there talking about the product parameters because it takes at least an hour to go through the details of what type of content you will need. I will come back shortly on it later. So the first part, very important, the data system. The second is the first part, the data content. The second part, your data system, which I already explained what the big steps is Europe is doing at the moment. But what are they looking for and why it's so ambitious, this data system? Because Europe really wants computers to talk with each other. Fully interoperable system, even on a semantic, and that's a little typing error, semantic reason. So they say computers need to finally use the same vocabularies like we talk to each other. We talk in English now, we can talk in Dutch, but we know the vocabulary and then we put it into a syntax so we understand each other. We can use sentences finally. And that's what computers need to do at the end. If we talk about carbon footprint, that everybody understands that it's carbon footprint and calculated by this or this method, as Anton was explaining. And they really want to have this system in place. It will take some time, but that's what they finally want. Further going to detail, they don't want to have this information commercialized. It's really for the purpose of having sustainable products at the end, and it needs to remain available. You have to take into account if you build a system that you don't create a vendor lock, for example, that when one of the partners goes bankrupt, that you don't have access to the information anymore. And these things all needs to be covered and are part of the essential requirements. On the technical requirements, and that's more clear, you need on each product unique identifiers, so you can really identify the product. It might be by batch, it might be by product model, but you need to have the identifier on your product. It needs to comply with ISO 15459. It's a number for most of the people, but what does it mean? The ISO standard ensures uniqueness of the identifiers by using number ID issuers. GS1 is an example. We are an ID issuer. ODET for the automotive industry or NATO is one. So this is a quite critical part. And then you need to use open standards, standards which are available for everyone. So you can really ensure that you have an open system where you can exchange information seamless, I have to say. Therefore, they created the Surpass project. They put together knowledge institutions, standardization organizations, trade associations, and all other ones to discuss whether they can come to an harmonized system for the DPP. And they gave the objective to develop one for batteries, for electronics and textiles. It's a theoretical exercise. The next phase will be to put it in practice. And this is quite an important project for the European Commission to give them, as a result, a system which might be an harmonized system for the DPP. And then they can start developing the famous harmonized standards, which needs to be ready by the end of 2025. and these will be ISO standards. And then the solution providers can really build their system on defined standards, which doesn't mean they can start already, but this is really needed for ensuring that we have interoperability between the data. This gives you finally an idea about how a textile DPP, a part of the textile DPP, because there's more, might look like. You have from the ESPR general information on to what product does it relate, who is the economic operator who is responsible for this product, what is the composition. The delegated act will define to what detail the composition need to be specified, are the substances of concern, and so on and so on. This is what you see on the left side. On the right side and on the recyclability, those are the elements I explained, which are more the parameters coming out of the eco-design requirements. And I gave the list here from the ones which relate specifically to textiles coming out of the GRC study. We in GS1, we are working on this. We are adapting our standards as we speak, but we are also giving some examples on how this might look like. So we did it with all shoes. There is a nice demo made of it, and it all relates to using the components we developed. I started with saying that we were there as the basis for a unique identification and a barcode. In the meantime, we ensured a full architecture, which ensures this product interoperability. And the one which was the last one to be developed is really the digital link. I'm not going to explain the other ones on identification, master data management, and movements of products, but having the link between your physical product and the information of the product on the internet, on the web, has to be through a standardized web link. We all know what web links are, URLs, but they were not standardized. So by integrating the identification into the URL, we could standardize those ones, and it's been used by organizations like tex.tracer and Tappr, and then it links to the information which is available on the internet. It goes through what we call a yellow pages, which is a conversion table, which you as a brand can control yourself. So you might have the QR code on your product, you link it to the yellow pages, and the yellow pages you can always change if you change the location of where the information is on the internet. Or if you use another solution provider, you might even change this information. And that's in really a nutshell what the GS1 Digital Link is. And then you can have it more in detail, that it relates to not the DPP in general, but you might specifically take out the information on the water saving or the information on your spare parts or whatever information in relation to your product passport. Of course, it's a standard which not only relates to digital to the DPP. It's more broader, but it can be used very effectively in this area. Having said all this, and this is my last slide, from a GS1 perspective, we have a global group working on this, and everybody can join. It's open, but it's a very formal group. And that's why we created also in the Netherlands a mirror group, which is specifically for discussing these elements, how to apply our standards for the DPP and what should be changed. And that's one thing everybody can join in the Netherlands, which is more an open group and for open discussions. Having said this, we might have a more detailed look to the DPP, and that's why I introduced Bas, who has introduced himself. Bas, take the word.
Thanks, Jan. Very interesting presentation. And we're going to continue with digital product passports right now with Tappr. So I've also obviously brought some slides. So let's get started. In this session, I want to answer the question why textile brands need to adopt digital product passports. And just to start off, the definition of a digital product passport is vastly different depending on who you ask. But fundamentally, we believe a digital product passport is a unique consumer experience tailored to the product and integrated through the use of QR or NFC. Now, obviously, a passport refers to a bit of traceability. It refers to the impact on the environment. But just fundamentally speaking, it's a QR code in your product, and if you scan it, the consumer can see more information. That's the fundamental definition. And the first and most paramount use case is that it will replace product care labels. Many institutions, many parties, many large brands are lobbying actively to get rid of the product care labels. Just a fun fact, every year there's enough product care labels to go to the moon and back and all sorts of stuff. There's a lot of product care labels out there. And the most, fundamental change that digital product passports will bring is that we can replace those with digital labels. But if we now look back at the regulation, Yolanda touched base on it. Jan did also said something about it. But the regulation is not clear yet. So what can we do as an industry today? Well, we can look at what is the overall vision and the overall goal, and that is to, if you summarize everything, it's less waste, more value. That's why all the regulation is going towards. Even if the first set of regulation doesn't, it will keep on iterating and developing to get the final goal: less value, more waste. And the first two concrete opportunities we see is brands must enable consumers to make sustainable choices, and brands must embrace the circular economy. Now, the digital product passport is so important to for this change, for this transition, that the EU has initiated the Surpass project, like Jan mentioned earlier. And the digital product passport and the regulation, it's all targeting brands, and that makes so much sense, right? Because if you look at where a brand is in the value chain, they have the impact to make changes in the upstream a part of the chain, right? So the production, the sourcing, and the manufacturing, together with partners like tex.tracer and bAwear score. But they also have the impact on the downstream operations, because there a lot will change as well. We have to go to a repair, resale, recycle, and all the other R's you can think of. Like some people say there's 8 R's. I usually stick to 4, but it's also important to go to the downstream operations. We got to think differently about how brands do commerce, right? Before it was just, let's sell more, let's sell more, let's sell more, because that's the only way we can grow. But we have to capture more value of that downstream lifetime, of that downstream operations. We have to maybe go from customer lifetime value, which we had before, to product lifetime value. What if you can earn more multiple times on the same product through the repair and resale, etc.? That's where we actually focus on. We laser focus on that. And we believe digital product passports are your biggest lever towards the circular economy. First and foremost, we enable you to communicate information about your upstream. Obviously, we integrate there with tex.tracer or with bAwear score to communicate that information, the PEF statement, the LCA statement, the product journey, all the way from the cotton fields to the product manufacturing to the sale. But we also focus on the services during the lifetime of the product. Think about the repair, resale, recycle, and rental. And what is important to understand for the next phase of my presentation is that whether it's about communication or providing these services, you need to connect with the consumer. And the commerce landscape is changing. I myself personally am a big fan of marketplaces because it's very convenient, fast shipping, etc., etc. And with me, many other consumers. Marketplaces are growing like crazy. If you look in 2027, 59% of the global e-commerce sales, so every online sale, will flow through a marketplace. And that's no surprise, because if you look at all the retailers today, like all the online retailers, they're all getting a marketplace strategy. And there is this thing about marketplaces that they don't like to share consumer data. They really don't. Amazon, Zalando, all these marketplaces are very conscious about obstructing the flow of consumer data. They don't want to share that consumer data with you as a brand. Now, if you look at other commerce trends like social commerce, for instance, the TikTok shop, just so you know, these are also becoming a marketplace. It is not back in the days you would be redirected to a Shopify environment or to a marketplace like Amazon, but today it's going to be fulfilled by TikTok. TikTok is a marketplace just like Zalando and Amazon. And the reason why we're going there is, sorry, one thing in between, Vinted, secondhand marketplace, Depop, secondhand marketplace. They are also very passionate about not sharing consumer data with the brands, you know. Even Depop has said, yeah, no, we don't share the consumer data, but if you want to connect more with our audience, just sell more, you know, which is contradictory to what we've said earlier about the vision of the EU. So I just want to make the equation here, you know, because of this growing trend of marketplaces, the brand consumer connection is further under pressure. Nobody likes to share consumer data. You know, they're all very protective, all these marketplaces. And at the same time, transitioning to this circular economy, we need to connect with the consumer in order to drive these downstream operations like resale, repair, etc. You know, that's the way we can get towards an economy, towards a circular economy. And that is why textile brands need to adopt digital product passports. We need to enable brands to connect with their consumer to drive these operations. And that brings me to the benefit canvas. Most primarily, whatever you do, it always starts with the consumer connection. And this is what we believe the most paramount benefit that digital product passports offer. Digital product passports enable you to connect with your consumer directly, whether you sell it through wholesale, a marketplace, or your own D2C e-commerce channel. By having that QR label or that NFC tag integrated into your product, you are always connected with your consumer. And then you can enable many benefits, both in the sustainability area as other benefits. So, you know, you can drive sustainable commerce, which we'll actually provide some examples of. You will comply with the regulation that's coming. You can communicate your sustainability effort. All the things that you as a sustainability or CSR manager are doing, you can communicate that and show to the consumer how they can help by providing better care information. I mean, that is fundamentally speaking the most sustainable thing you can do today is by just giving better care instructions, not giving the word games like the Genetech symbols that you're looking like, what? I got to put my washing machine in the park mode. No, no, no. You can actually give them, you know, instructions in normal language, like, hey, don't use too much liquid, or don't put it on too high heat, or put it on a low RPM, or whatever you want to communicate to your consumer. You can provide that care information. Repair services, resale services, this is all going to be crucial, and you need that consumer connection. But you can also leverage that consumer connection to do other things more in the marketing area, like driving up and cross sales. You know, if you have a collection with multiple items, maybe they want to buy something else from that collection, so you can redirect them to your e-commerce channel, or you can storytell your brand. Imagine buying something of Zalando. It's Zalando, Zalando, Zalando. It's DHL. Where is your brand? You know, and that is where a digital product passport comes in. We create that magical moment between you and your consumer. Brand protection. If you have counterfeit problems, there's many more benefits, and it brings me towards the conclusion. I mean, the opportunities of digital product passports are unprecedented, but it is not only about sustainability. That's what I'm trying to say here. If you look at all the trends that we see in the market, just like the commerce channels, you know, there is a need to connect with the consumer. There is a need to drive other business models, and it's not only sustainability; it's also marketing. This can be your mutual party. You don't need to only use the sustainability budget. You can also use the marketing budget, because it is bigger than just sustainability. And that brings me to the following. Many people are always saying, like, yeah, but what are the results? Well, let me get started. Our results are anywhere from 2.5% to 64%. Actually, it can be lower, and we also have a client that actually has a higher result. But what I want to specify here is that the success of connecting with consumers has very little to do with the product itself. Obviously, if you buy a very expensive bag of €2,500, it's easier for a consumer to interact, and consumers would be more inclined to interact. But just to make sure you understand, a big portion of the KPI is coming down to very simple things like having a call to action next to your QR code, making the QR code visible, informing the consumers wherever you can that the digital product passport is there. These are the drivers for success. And yes, we have one client, which is the property of, which has almost 63.8% connection rate, which means that, for instance, if you produce 1,000 bags, you connect with 638 consumers. That's what the connection rate could mean for you as a brand, to connect with your consumers. And once you're connected, you can do all sorts of things. Also things like circularity programs, which we have done with GoFrank, our launching client. And people had more trouble to scan the NFC tag. That's why we would always recommend to go for QR, because it's much easier. The consumer is way better adopted to QR. But what we saw was extremely positive responses like, I wish it worked now. This is such a great initiative, or I love the idea, or I wish every brand did this. Consumers are truly open for more sustainable business models. And to get back to Christoph, we also wish every brand did this, and that's why we build a platform, which I just briefly want to introduce before we finish my presentation and we go to the Q&A. Now, what is Tappr? Tappr is a laser-focused software as a service organization to bring digital product passport to brands. Tappr is completely anonymous. We're just a B2B brand, but we're not consumer facing. We want to enable you, the brand, to connect with your consumers. And we do that through two solutions, the Passport Builder and the Brand Cloud, which I will discuss in a minute. And we're ISO 27001 certified, which means that we know how to deal with consumer data. And let's be honest, what would be the biggest fuck up? Sorry for my language, I can't find the other word. What would be the biggest fuck up in a relation? Well, if we leak consumer data, right? So that's why we are very serious about the ISO 27001 and the GDPR. And then thirdly, GS1 Digital Link is going to be the standard of the QR code. Jan said it. I, as non-GS1, say it again. GS1 is going to be the standard, and with Tappr, you're fully compliant. Now, let's start with the Passport Builder. Passport Builder enables brands to build these digital product passports at scale. You can build an experience and assign it to as many products as you want. So the Passport Builder enables you to build one experience and then dynamically apply it to various collections. So usually we see a brand that has like, okay, we have an essential experience, which we assign to the most of our SKUs. And then we also have, we enable you to connect with, to create other experiences for more dedicated collections. Like let's say you have an Ibiza lounge collection. You can create an additional experience and more storytell around that. But in essence, if you're a marketing manager, CSR manager, or a brand owner, you are literally 15 minutes away of building your own digital product passport. All you need is access to our platform and you can start building the digital product passport. And once you have built that passport, you can actually order it, the GS1 QR codes, and send it to your trim supplier. We offer trim suppliers, but you can also use your own trim suppliers if you want to leverage this technology. And we're integration first. You don't need to manually copy and paste data from your traceability provider like tex.tracer, or from your PEF calculations or LCA calculations from bAwear score. No, we make sure that with GS1 Digital Link, all the data is seamlessly integrated. Obviously, if you are pursuing the marketing benefits, like getting consumer data, we make sure we also integrate with your CRM or CDP system to connect the consumer in your existing systems. And that actually brings me to the last slide of my presentation. We're now working with many brands, also in the French region, and I didn't mention it before, but the DPP is being implemented early in France. And what we see is that if you start too late, it's going to become a compliance game. It's not a sustainability game. It's not a marketing game. It's just compliance. We need to comply because we don't want to have fines. And then you get very let's put it like that, lame experiences. It's like you scan the QR code and you're speaking to the brand lawyer instead of to your sustainability efforts, or instead of talking with your storytelling or the brand value or whatever. So prepare for the regulation of tomorrow, but capitalizing on the innovation today, right? So yes, start with providing better care instructions. Start with connecting with your consumers. And that is what Tappr can do for you. Passport Builder is real. We enable brands to build digital product passports at scale for your full collection in a matter of minutes. This is Bas from Tappr. I want to thank you for your attention. We're now going to the Q&A because this was the end of the 4 presentations. Let's go through the Q&A. I'm going to stop presenting.
I think actually, Bas, because maybe you haven't been able to follow this, of course, we've tried to answer as many questions as we can already. I think actually Volkan has a nice question that I wasn't able to answer. Like, regulation says labels must be easily readable by consumers. What if we only have QR codes on products? How will they read it? Bas, do you have an answer to that?
Yeah, for sure. So that's a very good question. At the moment, the regulation doesn't allow the sole use of QR codes, right? It depends on the country, but with most countries, you still need to have a product care label in all the different languages. So that's where I started with the initial slide. There's many institutions to actually ask the European Commission, or the letter from the American apparel fashion industry said, to whom it may concern, we want to stop using product care labels. So you're right, Volkan. Today, you still need a label. But in the very near future, I can assure you it will be replaced by the digital care label through a QR code. Does that
Great.
answer your question?
Yeah, and indeed, looking at, we only have 1 more minute. Sam and Anouk have a question for you, Bas. Digital product passport, do we pay per digital product passport or as a subscription, and how difficult is it? But I think actually that question you've answered, because it's pretty easy, I think, with your integration first situation.
Correct. Yeah, I regret the timing. Maybe we can extend 2 minutes. Is there more questions? So, question for tex.tracer, Yolanda, where to start?
Yes, yeah, basically, and on the question for tex.tracer, yeah, that part I try to reply to Maxime and Beatrice as well. Basically, I think it's just getting started. And for those who say, well, actually, I do want to get started, but not with tex.tracer or with a serious platform, email me. I'd love to send you the Excel file where we, a long time ago, started with. I'd be happy to share it so that you can at least get started. And the rest of the answer is there. Bas, do we have anything else? Actually, maybe one question from Tanya for Jan as the last one. Which company is managing the yellow pages of DPPs?
So I answered it in the chat.
Oh, sorry, you did. Sorry, you did.
No, it's no problem. I can say it to everyone. It's Resolver service ensure this. Now, at the moment, we have as GS1 a Resolver service online already. It's actually an architecture, but let's call it like this: the yellow pages, which are linked to the product IDs. But the expectation is that companies, brands will put Resolver services themselves in the end, like linked to a PIM system or linked to the ERP system. But these are the expectations.
Lovely. Now, actually, Bas, maybe over to you to finish off.
No, I think I see some more questions. Obviously, here in the presentation, you can see the 4 email addresses of us. Obviously, feel free to send an email if you have additional questions. Also, below, you can actually see that there is our websites. If you click on it, you can see all the 4 websites of the organizations that we're speaking today. I think if you still have questions or you want to know more, I think I speak on behalf of tex.tracer, bAwear Score, and GS1 that we're more than happy to chat with you in a further session in a meeting. So feel free to reach out. And then lastly, I want to thank everyone for attending the Green Threads webinar. Make sure you're registered on our LinkedIn event, because we are going to send you some more material, including the recording of this session if you want to listen to it again. So please register on the LinkedIn page, because that will be our source of data where we will send the presentation to, the extra material from tex.tracer, and also the recording. This is the end of the webinar. Thank you so much all for joining, and we hope to see you again soon.